Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. How the hell are you? We're coming to you from the Earwolf Studios in Hollywood, California. Find the Netflix building and then walk across the street. And come on up. Say hello. They'd love to hear from you. Tell them I sent you, and don't take anything once you're inside the building. They're very strict. They have a secretive way of knowing you took something. I can't share with you how, but it's cool. That's all you need to know. So write to us. I have a note here. Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Sammy and Jamie not here today, but they would love to hear from you as well. So don't just write to me. Don't just write to Ryan and the people at Earwolf. Write to Sammy and Jamie, kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. And we'll encourage you to check out recent shows featuring, the very recently Academy Awarded Allison Janney or Sam Rockwell. And I just dropped 2.5 hours of Bill Hader. So spin on that, won't you? Or the longest on-camera interview Elon Musk has given, also available to you, and of course, hero and friend Ricky Gervais. For those of you who give a good goddamn, and I hope you do because we're going to be talking about it today, the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We are in the midst of shooting shows 4, 5, and 6 of 10. And it's exceeding all expectations. The show won a Peabody Award. I'll ask our guest today if she knows what that is. I certainly don't. I know it's prestigious and important. Mm-hmm. And yet, a little talked about. So we'll discuss that briefly. And the show, of course, picked up for season 3 while we were still shooting episode 3 of season 2. But we're elated and crazy excited. Those of you who constantly ask on Twitter, the show will drop as it did its first season after Thanksgiving. 10 episodes this year instead of 8. And what we've shot thus far is so damn good it makes me want to cry. I will say that the Maisel world is expanding and contracting in hilarious ways. So there, and let's get to... Jamie and I did a show last week where a guest had to reschedule. And so we just came in and I answered your questions. We created our own... is it AMA? That sounds familiar, but I always think MMA and get confused. And so there are a couple of questions left over. This is from Von Bede, at Von Bede, on the Twitter. Now, remember, you did say you'll answer every question for the show, Kevin. Well, you let me be a 2-show intern this fall. That's BD's question. Qualifications, competent. That's it. Yes, of course. Yeah. Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Give us some more qualifications, and we'll figure it out. You'll need to be vetted. You can't just write in on Twitter and then show up at the show. Because you could be
crazy.
Grandson. No, you're not sorry. Nor should you be. Grandson of
someone crazy.
Someone crazy. I was thinking of...
Manson?
I wanted to say Chaz Manson.
Chaz. Oh, he's great. He's a jazz musician.
Yeah. Chaz is so into jazz. The dearly departed. Last question for you folk. This came from the Instagram. Scott Osborne at SoHamilton2. His question... Who makes you still crack up uncontrollably even after all these years? Well, Chris Guest owns me. Now, it's easy to pick one of the funniest human beings that ever lived, but I've known him since 1991, I want to say, because we shot something together, a show he and Rob Reiner created right before A Few Good Men. In fact, I've told the story maybe once or thrice or 17 times. The reason I got A Few Good Men, or so I'm convinced, is that I was shooting this other thing called Morton and Hayes that Chris Guest and Rob Reiner created, and I was in Rob's face every day for 6 weeks while he was casting A Few Good Men. We're having lunch every day, the way Jews do. And one day he just sort of waved his beautifully stubby finger in my face and said, I'm doing this movie. It was a Broadway play. It was a big hit. I got Tom Cruise. I think I'm going to get Jack Nicholson. But there's this part of Tom's co-counsel that you're perfect for. I've got an offer out to Jason Alexander, but if Seinfeld gets picked up for season 2, he won't be available. A little perspective, Seinfeld season 2 was a 90% not a chance in hell. It had aired on Friday nights as the Seinfeld Chronicles in season 1, only 4 episodes, and 13 Jews were watching to bring it home. So I went home, and it was my prayers that were answered for Jason Alexander and myself when Seinfeld got picked up. So working on that show, Chris Guest would just look at me, and I had to do scenes with him on the show, and I eventually had to do what I called forehead acting. I had to stare into the center of his forehead while we had a scene face-to-face, because if I looked into his eyes, it was not going to be good for me. And to this day, he'll just do a little head adjustment, changing his glance from me to the shrubbery behind me, mid-conversation, and give a little, and I'm done. I'm done for. So Christopher Guest is your answer. I believe that's the housekeeping for today. I'm going to say it is, whether you like it or not. I'd like to get to our guest, if you don't mind. I am super excited because we've been working together now for a couple of years, and she scoffs, but it's
I giggle.
You could write that. You could put that in a record of sorts. Please welcome Jen Kirkman. Now, Jen.
Hi.
Why do I and a few others, I'm guessing, want to say Jen Kirkland? Is it because we love Dr. Kirkland from Costco?
Is he a doctor?
I've decided.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's because
Yep.
I had a crush on a boy in high school named Adam Kirkland.
Okay.
And it was always my dream that someday I would be Jen Kirkman Kirkland. And maybe you're sensing,
Wow.
but now I've changed my mind about that.
Did you have a crush on him because you had similar names?
No, I was just couldn't wait till homeroom every day because I knew I got to be next to him. And then he moved. It was very sad. Anyway, maybe you're sensing that in my soul.
That's got to be it. What was his full name?
Well,
Oh, you're not going to say?
of course I can. His name was Adam Kirkland.
Adam Kirkland, if you're out there.
No.
No.
It's. I no longer have a crush, but it's always embarrassing when he remembers that I did. But anyway, I also think nowadays with isn't
Costco.
there someone famous named Kirk? Oh no, there's another Kirkman with Robert Kirkman or whatever, The Walking Dead, and President Kirkman on that show with Kiefer Sutherland where he's a president.
Wow, so there's a lot of Kirkmans.
So I feel like it's coming back
Strong.
It's coming back strong. So I don't know why you can't get your shit together.
It's because of Costco.
It's because of Costco.
Because
probably.
everything has got Kirkland on it.
I get introduced as Kirkland a lot, which, it can be soul crushing.
Well,
I don't know if you've ever been called the wrong name.
welcome to Kevin Polak. Polak. Also, for some reason, my grandfather decided to remove the C from the spelling of Pollock, and I've been correcting that for forever.
In my mind, I would spell it with a C.
And you should.
Yeah.
There was a split between the grandfather and his brother. The family was also, the Pollock was just a given name at Ellis Island, anyways. But they argued how to spell it.
Do you think someone was having a go and they were like
taking a piss?
And they were like Polak, even though I know. Are you not Polish?
No, Russian.
Okay, so I don't know. Maybe they were just doing that.
Yeah. Well,
they're just giving racist last names.
I just know that the grandfather and his brother, who escaped the Cossacks when they were like 5, 6 years old. Just one of my favorite childhood memories was the two of them yelling at each other at the table because it was hilarious. It was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. I'm channeling that a little bit in
when you do Moish.
When I do the Moish on the Maisel.
Fan. I have to say to the audience, one of the greatest joys of my life is as a writer on the show. And again, I give all the credit to Amy and Dan.
By the way, we haven't even mentioned that yet.
Oh.
I just said we've been working together for a couple of years.
Oh, that's it. Sorry.
One of the great writers on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Hello.
The joy of my life is sitting in the table reads and watching you guys act. And I'm just like, oh, it's a Moish day. I get so excited when it's a Moish heavy script.
So listen.
I can't get enough.
Well, did you see Barry Levinson's, dare I say it, masterpiece, Avalon?
No.
It's okay if you haven't. So it's one of his Baltimore set movies, but it is a
I'm putting in my phone.
It is a multi-generational immigrant coming to America in the 40s and getting through to, I think it ends around the 80s maybe. But it is an extraordinary piece of work. And in it, Lou Jacobi, one of the great actors, who you may remember from the Woody Allen film Everything You Want to Know About Sex.
Sure.
He played the guy who decides to go upstairs at a party and get into the woman's dresses, cross-dressing. And then he sneaks out, has to sneak out the window and ends up getting busted on the street. Or the famous TV commercial, I'm going to say from the 70s, I can't believe I ate the whole thing.
Oh, my God, I remember that.
Lou Jacobi.
Was it for like an Alka-Seltzer type thing? Yes, I know that one very well.
So I am channeling Lou Jacobi. And when you see Avalon, you'll see it, because that's really the version of him that I'm channeling. And so I'm thrilled to death to be on this show. I really am. I feel like my entire everything has led to this character in the weirdest way. Yeah. Everything I know and have learned and have experienced, always feeling like someday, gainfully employed for almost 40 years in the television and film business. And there's been these amazing highs, crazy.
Yeah.
But still that sort of longing for what is the right fit, right?
Yeah.
And television is that dangerous, weird, seductive world of the gainful employment is one of the most elusive things in the world.
Right.
Right? The number of pilots that are made, they get whittled down to the number of shows that get on the air. Then that gets whittled down to the number of the shows that actually last 2 or 3 years. And then what? 1% has a lifespan?
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, the odds are against you the moment you sign up.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm dying today. We'll talk as much as you'd like about the writer's perspective.
I'd love to.
Which I do not have. But first, since you mentioned the Moish and your happiness therein, I need to know how many brothers and sisters I have in the writer's room.
You mean Jews?
No.
Oh.
Fans.
Oh, shut up. What do you mean fans?
Well, I feel like Moish would be fun to write for because he's a scene stealer, but that's maybe just my own myopic view.
I think that unlike any other writer's room I've ever been in, and I'm mostly write my own, like I would say every year I'm a person who sells a pilot. Right. It doesn't get made.
Sure.
So that's me. And then I'm on tour.
Yeah.
So mostly I don't like writing jobs.
Right.
I take them if I'm really interested in something. And in the past, I've taken them for the money.
Sure.
This one is the interest, and then also they pay me. But anyway, so I haven't been on every show.
You haven't been on a lot of writers' rooms.
But maybe 4 or 5.
Okay.
And unlike anything else where they sit around and talk about the actors and talk about the characters in terms of like how much should we give or how much, all of that is already known by Amy Sherman Palladino and Dan Palladino, our showrunners and creators and head writers and blah, blah, blah. So we don't sort of decide anything in that sense. It's not like, oh my God, I really want to write this for blah, blah. So let's do this. So they'll say in this episode, oh, and I'm so sorry you're getting killed off. Did they tell you? That's my favorite joke to do. Michael Zegan, who plays your son, does not appreciate that joke that I do to all the writers.
Well, I don't know if you know of my recent history of that joke.
I think I did maybe hear something.
Not only was I killed off on Mom.
Oh, sorry.
No. But when I had a friend in the writer's room on that, and when Chuck Lorre came to the writer's room and said, I've had an epiphany, we're going to kill this character, every writer, first reaction, he's kidding, so everyone laughed.
Yeah.
Dare I say my character was also beloved on that show. I mean, I was supposed to guest star in like 2 episodes. I ended up doing 15 over 2 seasons.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And the character was kind of the only man on the show because Matt Jones's character was kind of spineless and Nate Cordry's character was kind of spineless. And they're both friends and they both admit that. They just weren't writing any men. So anywho. Yep. So Chuck Lorre takes that idea to the writer's room and everyone again assumes he's kidding. And then the next phase is instantly trying to talk him out of it. And Chuck Lorre being the Lord just dug in his heels even more. The more people said, you cannot fucking do this. He said, watch me. And it was all based on the way they killed Josh Charles' character on The Good Wife. That it was so shocking. So Chuck Lorre wanted this shocking.
But you only get that moment, and then you're screwed because you lost the guy, unless you do flashbacks.
Yeah, I mean, honestly and truly, it was so devastating. And also, he called me like right before the holiday. I mean, it was, oh God. Not only did he call me to give me this horrible news, he pitched me the joke of how my character died.
Oh, no.
Like, I'm the audience for that.
Right.
No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Listen, so here's what happens. You're going to die going down on Allison Janney. Isn't that hilarious?
And I'm going to be honest with you. It's like not that hilarious.
Not only is it not hilarious, you've just told that joke to the
person.
Singular, not going to laugh.
And if they were smart, they would have killed you off for that moment, and then you would have appeared in flashbacks.
Well,
if they had flashbacks,
you know, it was such a horrible experience as a creative person.
Yeah,
I loved the cast, I loved the directors, I loved the writers, and then Chuck Lorre was just horrendous.
Yeah,
like you know, we both.
Did you start empathizing with Charlie Sheen?
Everyone does. So you, or is that what made him crazy? You know, we come from stand-up comedy, so we spend our lives creating, writing, editing, performing, honing, mining that gold, and all of that. So when this all leads to me pitching him jokes. In a sitcom world, it's beat the joke. The whole rehearsal week is beat the joke, beat the joke, beat the joke.
Yeah.
And I probably pitched on average, and I learned when to do so. 5 jokes per show. Not a lot. 15 episodes. I was 0 for 75.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm actually just thinking about how quick your math was. That's why I said holy shit.
That was the reason.
Yeah.
So yeah. Your character gets killed joke is,
oh, well, sorry. Too close to home. But it's not going to happen. That's why I can joke about it. Well, listen.
But now that it did happen in my brain.
Yeah.
You know.
That's how you're going to die going down on. That's going to be weird, but Abe. No, but of course, everyone in the room is a huge fan, and it's fun when it's, I wish I could say, because I mean, you already know because you read the script, but I can't tell the audience, but the episodes that we just talked about off air that we're going to be coming up filming, it's like, oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And there's certain situations that we love seeing you in, like love anytime you're with Abe.
Sure.
The juxtaposition of those two guys.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fantastic. But that's why I get excited. We get excited when we sit there and get to listen to it. And you can picture, I mean, that's the thing where I'm like, you know what? I can act and I've acted, but I don't have that thing that it just pops off the page and you go, oh my God.
Oh.
Like that thing that you have when we watch you in the table reads or on screen. It's like, oh, I mean, it was coming off funny off the page, but then it's so you.
Right.
That people can sit in the room. And so we don't really we'll sit there and say, okay, in this scene, Moish has to tell his son, you can't date that shiksa. So it's like, we'll talk probably more than the average, I think, writer's room does in detail. We kind of act out the scenes together,
right.
And then he'll say this, and maybe he says that, maybe he says that. And it's just a lot of talking, and I feel bad for the writer's assistant. And so, then you get to see what makes it into the script, and then we can keep, punching it up or whatever. But It's exciting to get to know a character more and think of surprising things they might have. Like,
oh yeah,
even moments where now I long to see, I don't know. There's even moments between you and your wife that I like. We get to see moments between you and your relationship in season 2 that we didn't get to see in season 1 because it was just a lot of concentration on your kids and on your own business and you and Abe and this and that. But I love when there's deeper things. Like you said, it's expanding and contracting in hilarious ways.
Yeah.
But I think the characters get more outrageously funny and also more, even while staying the most grounded ever. It's so real to me.
It is so real. And it is also a heightened reality at all times as well. And one of the things that always made me less interested in television comedies, even a show with brilliant actors like Mom, it's this false reality that sitcoms all have inherently. And then becomes the heightened reality. You get a Modern Family or something like that. That's so well written and so snappy. And then this even adds another level of heightened reality because of the period element. Yeah. And the wardrobe is insane and the production design is insane. Oh my God. And everything is insane. The music's insane.
Yes.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about in terms of, and I'm especially curious now that you've mentioned the less amount of time over the course of your career that you've been on staff.
Yeah.
Walk me through I basically write a pilot every year that doesn't go. Because I know of those. Yeah. But it sounds like you just get used to it and it just becomes part of the thing. Yeah. And a lot of it is, almost all of it is politics and also who's the showrunner? Yep. They all seem so, like I wrote this 1 hour drama pilot, and if we don't attach a showrunner that they are madly in love with. Oh, right. Don't even pitch it. Yep. Because my foolish nature was, remember the Writers Guild since '87, I'm not a novice, but my foolish ignorance was, why don't we allow them to weigh in and help pick who the showrunner is? Why would we come with a showrunner? And also, don't the great best showrunners, if they don't create it themselves, they're not interested? Yeah, but you know what I'm learning is that there are a lot of people who I run shows for a living. Like that's their job, right? And they might not always. So like in the way that Larry David ended up running Seinfeld, like I don't think he wanted to be a showrunner. Of course not. But I think that then those great partnerships happen, or like Raymond with, I forget his name. Yeah. But then there's people who are just like, they don't have their Jerry and they don't have their Ray. And they're just, hey, I take pitches. I can show run. Right. And that's how I met someone that, it wasn't a showrunner. Sorry, it was a writing partner. Never mind. Bad story. But they go, I'm interested in this. I'll run it for you. Right. So in that way, I've had networks and studios say, so I like your pitch idea, but you'll need a showrunner. Right. And we know some people. So like I pitched. Done all versions. Yeah, I've done all versions. I've even done I'll Run It, which I don't think it helped me on that one. And then I realized what one does, and I'm like, I don't ever want to run a show. But yeah, so I mean, I used to write on, do you remember the show Chelsea Lately? It was on So I wrote on that for like 6 years. So that was like the perfect job for a stand-up. That's how I got my following. And I got to be on the show every week and blah, blah, blah. So I started touring, and then I wrote some books. I had TV show ideas. It's always about my life. I would always be the star of it, that kind of thing. Sure. So I'm good in the room. I can pitch. I always have an original idea. Right. And then it just, I'm also the person who pitches like 3 concepts a year. And it just like, no. But I usually sell one. I have good luck. It's weirdly my sensibility, even though I don't watch network sitcoms, I did growing up. Sure. So I still have that in my head. That's me too. That I like them. Yeah, sure. So I pitched a show I sold a show to ABC the year before last year and this year, and then one another year to Fox. So it's like, for some reason, I'm thinking in those terms. But I think but they're always single camera. And I don't think I could be good at multi-camera for these days. I don't really understand what it is. What makes people laugh. It doesn't seem edgy enough. It doesn't seem saccharine enough. I don't really get it. Yeah. I would have been great in the room on like Taxi or something, I feel like. But anyway, so I do that, and then it doesn't get picked up, and it's usually politics. Like I'll give a perfect example. I sold a show to ABC this year about a woman who goes through a breakup on Christmas, decides to take a year off dating, but it's also the year she turns 40. She takes a year off everything. She's completely single. She's on her own. She's figuring out her life. I love the show. How soon can you start? It was very cute. So it was called The Mighty Quinn, and I wanted the theme song to be the thing and whatever. I wrote a screenplay 37 years ago called The Mighty Quinn. Shut up. I didn't know that. No one knows. It's the greatest title. No one ever read it. It is the greatest title. So it didn't go, but what it was an ensemble with people, obviously. Sure.
But it wasn't a family show.
Right.
And ABC usually does family.
Yeah.
So I pitch it to ABC. The girls love it. The gals. Oh, great. So they buy it. Then they have their head boss, and she's also a woman, and she liked the idea too. And she was getting, so you write it and you do all these notes calls, and their notes were great. It wasn't annoying at all. It was a great network experience. Everyone was on board. And then they passed on it once it got up to Bob Iger. And he was like, I don't know why exactly, but one of the big reasons was we're just not doing ensembles right now. We're just doing family shows. And I'm like, when I came in, that would have been helpful information. I mean, I'll take your money and write it, but aren't we all wasting each other's time? And I guess the thing is the big head honcho will always be like, this is the network. And then he'll empower the people a little bit under him to go, but find something new. It's always like, we do this, but also find something new.
Sure.
Find the next Modern Family, the next Seinfeld. So those people feel empowered, and they're like, well, the one thing we're not doing is ensemble. And they get all excited, and they really want it. And then it goes back to him, and he's like, but we don't do that. But you said find something new. Well, not this. So it's like, it's maddening.
And it literally happens over a tuna fish sandwich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where knowing that going in is like, once you start to see the shows they're picking up and the ones they've said no to,
right?
Because you don't all find out on the same day, all the different people with pilots, right? So you go, oh, I see where this is going. Okay, no, it's not going to happen. And the minute I'm done writing the script, you usually turn it in right around the Christmas season. You find out 3 weeks later in January. You got to let it go that moment.
Right.
And I think because I do stand up, it's like, did you say that? No, somebody said this. I thought I heard in an interview, someone said, I don't remember what it was, but because I can always just do stand up and tour, do Netflix or whatever, it's not my only bread and butter. But some people make a living just selling a show every year, and your salary increases every year from that. So failing up. So some people, it's like they're probably at like $750,000 to write one pilot.
And they've never had one made.
And they've got, like there's so many, like, who lives in that gorgeous house? It's like someone who's never gotten anything on TV.
Right.
But when you think about, they hear maybe I was told this, now I don't know. Maybe a network could hear 500 pitches in a year. That seems like a lot.
Well,
and they buy maybe 50.
Now more than ever.
And they make maybe 4. Right. So I still am proud to have been in the 50 that were bought kind of category. But I need to learn how to dream beyond, if that makes sense. Like, I'm always so like, oh, it's not going to go. Like, that's just how I live.
Did you come in with a showrunner on any of those?
Yes, I did. On the recent one. I was with Universal Studios, and none of this makes any sense to me. And imagine like me trying to explain to my mother, why are you tinkering over this so much, Jennifer? I'm like, because I was writing it when I was home visiting them over the holidays. I'm like, it's not me. It's studio notes, and then producer notes, and then network notes. Yeah. Why? And I go, they all contradict each other, and I don't understand why you're laboring like that. She just kept thinking, you're being in your head too much. I would just write it, let it go. I'm like, oh my God, please stop. So I'm trying to... I really want to understand how it works, Jen. And then I start to tell her and just glazing over. And I'm like, forget it.
Wow.
So, but the studio I was with was Universal. And they said, we have a showrunner guy that works with the producers that you've attached to your project. Meet him. Yeah. So I met a lot of different showrunners. Right. And I went with this one guy, David, who's fantastic. And then we pitched to ABC. They bought it. So it was ABC Network, but NBC Universal Studios. And this other production company, and many fucking people.
That's the other thing too. If the network has its own studio,
and that's the other thing with ABC, they always buy ABC studio projects.
Yeah. The Brooklyn Nine-Nine ending up at the studio that made it for the network that didn't. NBC, and now NBC's like, sure, we'll take it.
And it's so funny because my show was so not an NBC show, but NBC Studios loved it. Right. And they were the right fit for me. Sure. And yet it would never make sense on their network. So it was like, I don't fucking get it. I don't think all these people need to be involved, but don't ask me. Like stand-ups to me are just weird, I don't know, just simple folk.
Well, because
we know we don't need that much.
We also we don't need an entourage. I never had a road tour manager.
No.
You pack a carry-on luggage.
Well, you might.
You simplify.
I've got products.
You simplify everything. You go on stage. We each go on stage by ourselves. I liken it to a prize fighter. You've got people in your corner. You've got trainers. In our case, other comedians. We've got managers and agents. But when you step in the ring, you're living and breathing and surviving and succeeding second by second on your own wits and skills that you've honed over the years.
Yeah.
And there's nothing simpler than that.
No.
Just get everything out of the way.
And that's my favorite part, too, about being in the rooms and pitching. There's all this concern about what will the rest of the country think. And I'm like, well, I was just in Iowa City last week, so I can let you know. It's just in Omaha. Everyone's fine, by the way. Everyone gets jokes.
Yeah.
People aren't oversensitive. In fact, some of my best crowds are like the right-wing people all through my life. Well, I don't really talk about politics, and I'm not confrontational about it if I do. So
Right,
perhaps that's why everyone's well-behaved.
Sure.
But
your subject matters are adult and a little edgy.
Sure.
Or your thoughts about them are unique and
but I just feel like
forward thinking.
No, what would everyone think in Minnesota? Well, I just made them laugh, and it wasn't that hard. Like I think they'll understand.
Yeah.
A woman who quits her job, or whatever. It's like it's not like I'm bringing them like a let's do a piece about a performance artist who puts blood on Virgin Mary statues. Like I'm never bringing a crazy idea like that.
Yeah.
So the things they think America doesn't understand, I'm like my head explodes. So like when I think about it, and then I have encountered people that don't understand things, but they're not. You don't need to get every single person in the country on board. You really only need a few million.
If you're swinging for that many, I'm not interested.
No.
Yeah. I can travel on my own from town to town, from state to state, and have for decades.
Yeah.
And agree with you, everything's fine. They've all come. They've all made arrangements.
Yeah.
Babysitters, what have you. They got their tickets in advance, hopefully.
Yeah.
How's the walk-up?
I'm obsessed. I'd be such a good, I don't know what I'd be good at, but I'm obsessed with ticket sales. It's all I think about.
Why?
I love to notice patterns. Like, I know, like with my fan base, I hate the word fans. The people that really like me, they buy right away. Right. So the venue gets really excited. Oh my God, we just sold this many tickets in a week. I'm like, and it'll be dead until I get there. You will have flatlining, and then it's walk up.
It's all in the first week, and then walk up.
Yeah, and I just love noticing the patterns, and I love getting the email from the venue saying, this is what you sold this week. And I'm like, wow. Like right now, I'm doing a gig in Vermont in October. I don't expect it to sell until a couple weeks before. And I get the numbers every week. It's a very small venue. It's like only 160 seats.
Right.
Every week I get the same email, like, maybe 20 for each show have been sold, except the Thursday night early show. Just one ticket has been sold. And just for a week, I hope it stays that way. Just this one person that bought it the day it went on sale for October.
Oh, God.
They bought a ticket in April for one. They already know I'm going alone. Like
6 months.
I want to know that person's psychology. Like I know so much about this person.
Yeah.
Are they single and they're just hopeless? I'm not going to meet anyone by October.
Please do all of this on stage.
Really?
Absolutely. And ask the person to stand and have a conversation with them.
How will I know?
What do you mean? Which one of you bought your tickets in April?
Oh, okay. Good point. Okay, I'll remember
Since
this.
we know it's one.
Yeah. Or it's someone who's married now and they're like, I'm going to leave Sheila in September and I'm going to start going to things alone, starting with the Vermont Comedy Club.
Uh-huh.
See, I slipped my plug in there.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, I've gone off the rails. I don't know what you asked me.
There are no rails.
Oh. Do you know that I'm not Jewish? Does that upset you, writing for a very Jewish show?
I'm one of the few Jews in the cast.
I know, it's so strange. Our writer's room is like half and half.
But the other remarkable thing, I mentioned Avalon because it's the great Jew touchstone. I was the only Jew in the main cast in that as well, and it's just about Jews.
So strange.
Yeah, well, listen, Aidan Quinn couldn't be more Irish.
Yeah.
And he's one of the leads, and Elizabeth Perkins is
I thought you guys
Greek
ran
Orthodox.
this business. What's happening?
Well, we do, and then don't cast them.
Right. Yiddish cast,
Yeah.
British.
Well, yeah, I mean, Look, one of the surprises to me, and I'd like your take on this, about The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, is the demographic is many, wide. We had a 19-year-old niece of Jamie, my better half, living with us when the show dropped, and she and all of her other 19-year-old girlfriends became instantly obsessed.
Yeah.
So what do Upper West Side Jews in 1958, how do they speak at all to 19-year-olds?
Yeah. Clothing, lipstick, feminism? I don't know.
But they're not really that into feminism. Maybe so far the clothing, lipstick, the music they can't relate to.
No. What is it?
The families seem like cartoons to them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no connective life experience.
Yeah.
But the characters are so instantly interesting and compelling.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the uniqueness of this world that becomes fascinating from an outsider's point. Well, what is this sort of thing?
Yeah. My friends and people I know that watch it, it runs the gamut. I mean, I'm always, people are like, oh my God, I'm obsessed.
I knew we'd get the 75-year-old women.
Yeah. But it's big with the gay guys. It's big with, there's not one person in any demo. Now, what I found interesting, and I hope this doesn't sound insulting, but I was curious. I knew it would be genius and everything was great. But it's Trump is president, the Me Too movement. I wasn't sure. Will people want to watch a show where people have a lot of money and it's the 50s and we're,
Well, Me Too, I think we've dubbed at a perfect time.
Well, now I realize, because I was so close to it, I forgot, how outrageously ballsy Susie and Midge are. And how, oh my God, this is such a huge statement. But I'm just so used to it that I forgot, that it really pops on screen.
Right.
And it's the perfect time for it. But I was like, I wonder if people will be like, we don't have time to think about the 50s. Now is very important. We can't escape.
Well,
and it's perfect because people want to escape.
But they not only want to escape, make America great again doesn't just mean make America racist again. It means let's go back to a simpler time when America was allegedly great.
Yes.
And that would be the 50s.
Well, New York was better. Maybe.
Everything was.
And what's so great as a writer, and I know will appreciate this, it's so great to write for a time period where you can actually have conflict and it makes sense because you don't go, well, why wouldn't they just text that then? You can have a miscommunication. You can get lost. You can not know where your daughter is.
Yeah.
And nobody's able to text anyone or I just love that it really works that she's sneaking around as a stand-up and her parents don't know where she is because they can't just text her. And it makes so many more fun things possible.
I can immediately relate to that. I wrote a screenplays about 17 years ago. It was financed and fallen apart for me to direct about 4 times. Mm-hmm. We are closing our lead actress's deal as you and I speak to each other. I'm Knockwood allegedly directing this immediately after we wrap. I'm in prep and directing in October.
Fun.
Because I wrote it 17 years ago and I've rewritten it every time I sit down and read it, I rewrite it. So maybe 107 times. But there had to be a moment in time when, this person just says, why didn't you text me?
Right.
Because that was not only not a thing 17 years ago, it wasn't a thing 11 years ago.
No.
And so on. So, and it does change, like you said, some of the wonderful miscommunication, which is at the nature of human behavior and also comedy.
Yeah.
And so on. Did you see Ocean's 8?
I haven't, and do you want to know something about me?
I do. That's why you're here.
Sometimes I'm too jealous to watch certain things, so I just stay away and stay in my bubble.
Join the club.
So I think, now, and here's what's crazy.
Nothing crazy about this.
Okay. I am not, you know how there's not enough time in a day to pursue everything. So I don't audition for movies. If someone calls me in, throws me 3 lines, I've done that. But I'm always in a writer's room or on tour or something. The amount you have to audition for movies to actually then end up a working actress, that's a pursuit.
Yeah.
So I never pursued it. There should be no reason I'm jealous. It's not a career I secretly wanted. But nowadays, when you can get successful for other things, you're a comedian, then you become this, and they throw you in a movie, I can't watch anything that has anyone in it that did that. I'm too jealous. I don't even know what I'm jealous of. It's not like I'm being kept from being in a movie. I'm not angry. I don't want the people in it to not be in it.
That's such a human thing.
But
if your life is in show business, what Jen is describing is in all of us.
But when I watch these 8 women, I go, okay, why didn't I in that? Anything with that stuff, like a lot of stuff, I can't watch it. And then some stuff I totally, you know what I can watch is stuff that I'm like, I could never have fucking thought of that, done that.
Yes.
Take me into your world. But anything that I'm like, it's so stupid.
Have you seen Patriot on our Amazon Prime?
No, I
network?
haven't watched anything really in a long time. I'm putting it down.
I beg of you. You can download it.
Yep. What's it about?
I've spoken about this show several times on this show. I've spoken about that show on this show. At the center of it, I would say, is espionage and whatnot. But it's as if Wes Anderson and the Coen brothers and Soderbergh got together and said, why don't we do a show at the center of which is espionage?
I love it.
Because it's dark comedy at the same time.
Is it modern day?
Yes.
Will I understand it? Sometimes it takes me 3 hours to watch something if the plot's
You'll
difficult.
not only understand it, there's no convoluted plot lines.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, none. And yeah.
Because you don't want to watch stuff with me. I'm like, why are they in a spaceship? It's like, none of us know why yet. I'm like, okay, but I don't know that we all don't know. So, and I have to keep checking and I pause and I Google.
Sure.
It takes me 3 hours to watch like a half-hour thing if I don't get it.
I don't like to explain the show, I found, because I just start giving things away.
Oh, okay. But espionage makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm all obsessed with, what's going on with the Russia stuff, like deep, deep cuts into it. And so I love espionage stuff.
And the central character is a depressed assassin. A darkly depressed assassin.
I'm so on board.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And okay. I'm putting it in. I'll watch it.
Patriot. Second season's coming soon, and it's only 10 episodes.
I'll start binging.
Yeah. What age did stand-up comedy become a thing that you thought, well, I'll do that?
Well, I would say the seeds of it were probably always there since I was like a kid, and I loved stand-up.
But how?
The seeds of wanting to be one. I thought I was fun. Well, anyway, I didn't start till I was 21, and I started the minute I decided.
But as a kid, what are you seeing that makes you that compels you or attracts you?
Johnny Carson, Joan Rivers hosting Johnny Carson.
Okay. I'm
seeing and actually a little bit older, Seinfeld. I watched it when it was the Seinfeld Chronicles. I was like 16 or something, and I loved stand-up. I was always just like, anything with stand-up, I was mesmerized. I would watch it. I never thought, I want to do that.
Right.
I wanted to be many different things. There was the serious dramatic actress. There was the poet phase. There was Broadway dancing, singing phase. But it was always in the arts. And then I was a dancer as well, so I thought I was going to be a professional ballet dancer. That I should have known wasn't going to happen.
When did
I have a great story about that, by the way. So I'm from Boston, and that accent I'm doing is my mom. I took dance since I was 4, ballet a couple times a week. And now at a certain point, if you're going to try to go pro, you must do it before puberty or it's not going to happen. Okay. You have to stop your body from developing. Like you actually
during your training.
Yes, you have to be dancing like 5 hours a day, every day. Like you have to have that long life body. You cannot go through puberty and then try to do it. So anyway, I was taking ballet, a couple of times a week at Poopy Doopy Dance Studio. And
which one is that? What street is Poopy Doopy on?
It's on Pee-Pee.
Okay.
Pee-Pee Lane. But, just like your little average, like mom and pop dance shop.
Sure.
And the teacher was a former professional dancer, but there's a technique and a thing involved when you want to go pro. You have to study like you're a pro at the Boston Ballet or something. So right. I'm in the suburbs outside of Boston, and I don't know this, so I think I'm just going to keep taking at the Dubois School of Dance, and I'm going to be a dancer. Like, it's that easy.
Yeah.
And my teacher noticed when I was about 10 that I was really serious about it and that I was getting good. And she went to my mom and said, Jen wants to be a dancer, and she's getting really good. Now would be the time to audition her at Boston Ballet. And I cannot take her any further. She needs that technique and that training. And then from there, she can try to be a pro.
Zowie.
And so she goes to my mom's house just to say, you might want to think about it if she's really serious. And my mom goes to her. Now, I didn't know this conversation happened. My mom goes, I hate driving in the city. And it sounds expensive, but that's so wonderful that you think Jennifer could be a professional. Anyway, thanks for coming. And that's it.
Oh, God.
She never tells me.
Oh, God.
In her mind, if my dance teacher thinks I can be a pro, then I'll be a pro. We're not doing Boston Ballet. I'm not even going to look how much money it is because it's too much money. And I don't drive in the city, even though there's a train in our backyard that literally would just take me in. It's just her own, like, I don't feel like it. But anyway, so then I'm taking dance the rest of my life thinking I'm going to be a professional ballerina. It's already too late. I have a little tiny bum. And so I start auditioning for dance colleges, like big, serious dance schools. And I guess I don't really remember how they just let you audition, but I did. And you just go in these big rooms and I'm like, my God, these women are like tall, thin things. And they look already like they're pros. And I could just feel my technique was off. And I'm in this like big batch of people auditioning. And I get called into this office and they were like, how many of these schools how many more of these auditions are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, I've got one tomorrow. And they're like, no. They're like, your body has developed. You're
done.
You're done. You have a bum and some boobs and you have no technique. Like, and I go, oh, I guess I'm not good at it.
You look more like a comedian.
They go, you should have been studying at like Boston Ballet or something. And on the drive home, my mom goes, funny story. So I'm bawling. I'm like, oh my God, my dream is over. Funny story, Jen. Now I'm starting to see what Diane meant. Oh, you're going to laugh. She came to me 8 years ago and said that you had to go to, and I didn't want to drive into the city. And isn't it so funny? Now we go in the city all the time. We love it. But,
oh, God.
Oh, well, maybe we'll try the other college. I'm like, it's over. It's over.
Oh, my God.
Oh, so sad. And then, but it's my favorite story because it's so dark. And then I went to Emerson College in Boston, which they'll let anybody into that
Sure.
thing. And it's not it wasn't a good school when I went. I think
you
it
can
is
pronounce
now.
the name correctly, you can get in.
Yeah. And the dance audition there, you were just rolling around on the floor like in sweatpants. I was like, perfect. It doesn't matter if you have a body. So I just studied theater and dance there. But when I was there, I got into a comedy troupe. I was very like, at a certain point, I was funny and I enjoyed being funny to my friends, but in a performative way that was probably annoying. Like video cameras were just starting to become a thing. So I would make my friend videotape me and I'd just rant. I don't know why that would be fun for anybody.
You were the first YouTuber.
Yeah, I was the first YouTuber. And then, but I never thought of going on stage and being funny. I thought that was something had gotten in my brain. I got very pretentious. And I was like, no, less than. And so, but I got into a comedy troupe where we only spoofed Edgar Allan Poe writing.
Of course.
And so I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And then I kept falling more in love with it to where I was like...
The erudite funny people.
I mean, it was so not funny. And then I just finally saw a comedy show at a comedy club. And I can't tell you who, just local people. And there was a feeling that was overwhelming. It almost felt like adrenaline where I was like, I can't sit here anymore. I have to be there on stage.
Wow.
I'm not one of you people in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm up there.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
Right.
And then again, that arrogance you need when you first start. Where
Yes.
you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to be great at it. And here we go. And then now 22 years in, I'm like, oh God, I don't even know. Can I call myself a stand-up? It's like I get more humbled every year. But when I first started, I was like,
Yeah.
this is it. It's going to be easy.
How do we bottle the energy of that age that is involuntarily fearless?
Yeah. But do you ever get young people asking you for advice? Because I see a lot of fear, even in people. I think it's like the people that just go do it. Is it even fearless or is it like a form of mental illness? And I don't mean it in a bad way, but I mean like almost not a narcissism, but like a...
You're too young to be narcissist, I think, when that...
Really? Like 21, you think?
Oh, no, 21, you can be perfectly narcissistic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when I started, it was like,
But I don't think that, by the way you described it,
Yeah.
it came off as narcissistic.
No, but it was like,
It was a pure,
yeah, it was just like, I'm doing it.
I got to do that.
I got to do that.
Yeah, it's a calling.
It was a calling. It felt like a calling. But I didn't have any fear because I was like, but I'm supposed to be doing this. What the hell am I afraid of?
Yeah. When younger people ask, my first question is, do you want to be a comedian on stage?
Yeah.
Working on material and your point of view and your voice? Or do you want to be famous?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be famous, we're done talking.
Yeah. And is that because it doesn't interest you or because you would have no idea how to tell someone to be famous?
It doesn't interest me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And also I think your first mistake person is asking me because I'm 44, so I don't know how you in this generation should start because I started by looking in the back of a newspaper looking for the words open mic. And it took 6 months to find one because there was no information back then. So I bet you would have an easier time starting than I would. And you have podcasts where people who do what we do talk about it.
Also start a podcast.
Yeah. But don't ask the old lady how you should start. I don't even know.
Yeah. I went to a bar, a busy, crowded bar that in the corner had live music, which was just a cover band, right? Made up of local guys who would do that for 18 months and then never again the rest of their lives.
Yep.
That's who that band was. And went up to the manager at 20 years old and said, I'll go on when they take a break. I'll go on and do, 15, 20 minutes, whatever the break is.
And where did you know about that there was this stand-up thing? And why would you think that also?
Oh, no, I became obsessed when I was 10.
Oh, got it. But how did you know that would be a good environment? Well, there weren't like comedy clubs,
There were no options to me.
Yeah.
So it was
Anything
the only
with a
place I
microphone.
saw with a stage. I went in there as a 19-year-old with a fake ID, and the
so
germ
cute.
of the idea started.
Yeah.
There's a stage. No one's paying attention. I'll just go up there and...
I love it.
Not only was no one paying attention...
Oh, so he let you do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the worst sort of design. Unless I was designing how to bomb and learn to survive.
Yeah.
But if I was designing an environment to begin my stand-up career.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to a bar where there's loud cover band music, men and women age probably, 19 to 30.
Yeah.
Very boisterous and loud. And then when the band takes a break, that's the only time for the men and women to cohabitate, really.
Right.
Guys trying to pick up girls, girls trying to get picked up.
Yep.
And so on, whatever that was in 1978. And that's the last time or the last moment of the evening that you would want to then try to draw their attention.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I'm looking at the back of everyone's heads. I'm amplified. I'm doing Peter Falk's Columbo. And no one's looking. Not an occasional glance or acknowledgement.
And it's even funnier that you're doing impressions because that is very eye-catching or ear-catching.
Yes. I need your attention.
Yeah, but it's
to
also
know that
like,
my voice
oh my
has
God,
changed.
that sounds like Peter Falk. I'm going to look. What's happening?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not going to look because I might get laid.
Right. That's exactly right. I'm not going to look because the moment I look, I'm not going to get laid.
Yeah.
Someone else is going
I
to
lose it to this guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when you eventually do get past, I want to be on stage to, oh, geez, I am on stage. Where is that?
At the back, very similar, probably the back of a bar in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was called the Green Street Grill.
Was the ding ho still a thing?
No, the ding ho was gone, but all the guys that used to play it were still around.
Comedy Connection.
Yeah, Comedy Connection was there. I could never get past there. I mean, I was just, first of all, you're just not funny when you start. And I was more of a monologue. Oh, this was the other thing. When you were saying that your whole career led to maybe this Maisel role, not that my whole career led to a writing job, but it's interesting. The seeds of what I'm working on at the show were planted. Lenny Bruce I listened to every album in college. I would just lay in bed listening. I was obsessed with Lenny Bruce.
Which again, how did that even happen? Because someone had to have turned you on to him because you missed it by 40 years.
Yes. My parents had me when they were 40.
Sure.
So they're from the 50s.
Great.
So my house was the 50s all the time.
Oh, great.
The music, the everything.
They turned you on to Lenny Bruce.
No, just a friend of mine from college, but I was amenable to it because that was the sound I heard in my head. Like it made sense to me, his rhythm, his whatever. And so that was the kind of comedy I liked. I didn't know at the time that this whole alternative comedy thing, Janine Garofalo, all that, I didn't know any of that was going on.
Nope.
It was Lenny Bruce and Joan Rivers in my head. And anyway, so all those guys, the Comedy Connection, but I was saying when I first started out, I was just bad because you're new. Then I'm a girl. I think that maybe played into it. I think when you suck and you're new, some club owners will go, oh, she sucks because she's a girl, not because she's new.
And I don't think it's crazy to say that Boston as a area might have been a little harder for a woman to break in.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Than arguably any city in the world.
Yes, it's harder for anyone who's not like an Irish white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't really book me at this place. But again, I was not funny. And also, my God, imagine someone who thinks they're Lenny Bruce. If people didn't even think Lenny Bruce was funny then, some people.
You're better off.
Imagine 30 years later how little that's funny to anyone.
Yeah.
So, but I do well my first night because I followed an instinct I had to. Oh, so anyway, back to just really quick. And Joan Rivers' biography, Enter Talking, was in my purse all the time, like a Bible.
Crazy.
So I was obsessed with Village, New York, Joan Rivers, Lenny Bruce. I know everything about it. It's like I'm a historian,
and now
obsessed with it. Yeah. And so when I found out the show, I was like, oh my God, this is like the world I want to live in. So, and I never thought anyone else was ever going to talk about it. It's just me talking to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories is, do you know about the letter he wrote her?
The letter that Lenny wrote Joan?
Yeah.
No.
So Joan was struggling in the Village. Dick Cavett, Woody Allen, Bill Cosby, they were all her peers. Mm-hmm. They all
blew up.
She was walking around with a reel-to-reel tape recorder, the little high heels. And the managers were like, Joan, it's over. It's not going to happen. Like it had been 12 years,
wow.
Which was a long time back then. I feel like people popped a lot quicker than that. And so she just lost her mind on stage one night and was like, I'm having an affair with someone. He gave me this fur coat. I'm wearing it on stage. And she just started talking. And the gay guys started to really like love her. And she had her own little following. But she did bomb a lot telling her truth. And Lenny saw her one night and they liked each other. They'd run into each other all the time. And he just handed her a note after a bad set that said, "You're right, they are wrong.
Oh.
Can you die?"
Oh, yes.
So years later.
Those are the words that last the rest of your life.
And I felt like it happened to me. I was so obsessed with it. And I got to know her the last couple of years of her life. And she told me the best coda to that story. It's such beautiful comedian disappointment.
Please share.
She's telling that story to George Carlin, like kind of proud. And he goes, "I got the same note." Isn't that great?
Oh, and it doesn't undermine it completely in any way, shape, or form.
But they were both like, she ruined his thing. Yes. He ruined hers.
Well,
and then they both had the moment where they're like, but just us, right? I mean, they're not like four other people that. So they said they couldn't find anyone else that.
Even if there were 11.
Yeah.
He clearly gave this card in the guise of a note.
Yeah.
To the people he loved.
Yeah.
People that he actually thought had a shot of following in his footsteps. So it's still the greatest. Like when you heard that someone was spontaneously paneled on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yes.
There were a handful of people. But there wasn't just one. And those handful of people might have ultimately been 11.
Yeah.
And they are Mount Rushmore of stand-up comedians who debuted on The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make it less special.
Did you have any mentor? Because I did have someone in the San Francisco stand-up comedy scene when I was a pisher, 2021, who I just came on the scene, and I'd already been working in those shit bars for a couple of years. And he saw me on stage, and he was a made man at the time. And afterwards he said, "Oh man, when your material catches up with your stage presence, you're going to be a monster."
That's so great.
Because it made sense instantly also.
Yeah.
I wasn't overly proud of my material because I knew it was young and pedestrian.
Yeah, yeah.
But I did take great pride in how comfortable I was on stage because I felt it. I felt I belong from the first time. So,
I felt that way too. I don't know how it came off, but I did feel that way. And I know exactly what you mean. Like once the material, I didn't have like a specific one person, but I think and I would tell this to anyone out there, like if comics that are coming up to you spontaneously and saying like words of encouragement, like, keep going.
Yeah.
So it was like little things. Like once I moved to New York, it was like maybe Mark Maron would throw me a compliment. Maybe Louis C.K. would say something. Maybe as I moved to LA, like your Patton Oswalt might say, like there was a little buzz here and there, like, hey, you're unique, or, who are you? Or this is great. But not like one person that took me through the thing.
Just someone you admired who gave you encouragement.
And I got to watch everybody when you live in those cities and you watch the famous people. Well, maybe none of these people were famous at the time, but they were the working comics. And so to watch them work out a set, to watch certain people become who they were and drop their other stuff. I mean, those were exciting moments to just get to, and now I'm so lazy, I don't go watch anything. But I mean, I was out every night watching and just getting an education and learning but I remember when my first gig, I had written some jokes and they were awful. And I knew that I read them. I remember typing them out on a typewriter and I read them to my mom. And she goes,
wow. Still going to her for the audience.
Why was I going? I was living at home too at the time. I had like moved back home after college for a few months to save money.
Sure.
And my mom was like, oh, Jen, that's awful. Why are you? I don't even think, are you funny? Because you're so depressed all the time. But she meant it lovingly. She's like, what? You're such a wonderful, you just, okay. And she didn't know what was happening. So then I just I drive to and I don't even want to tell you what the jokes are because I'm like so ashamed.
Don't.
I feel like I should have been funnier. Mm-hmm. And it's not even fun to me, but they were bad.
But you're what, 22?
I was 21, yeah. And also one of them was about the Nancy Reagan Just Say No campaign, which was 15 years prior to, but I must have been thinking about it for 15 years.
Did you follow that with a Nixon joke?
Yeah, then I just kept going. But as I sat on that was the other thing I decided to do, because I think I'm Lenny Bruce. I light a cigarette and I sit on the stool.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Like a complete asshole.
Yeah, didn't smoke in her own life.
No, I did smoke. But and you know what I learned? A cigarette takes exactly 5. Jesus Christ.
That was 3/4 of a great save.
I just spilled water.
There's paper towels behind you. It's all going to work out. I'll vamp.
It's 5 minutes.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's actually good. Kids, start smoking. You can time your set.
Kids, bring your phone on stage and turn on the timer.
Or smoke, because it still looks cool. I don't care what anyone says. I can't smoke anymore. And then come to me
and I'll give you the hypnotist name to help you the way he helped me.
All I needed was adult asthma, and then I got scared.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, but I'm on stage, and I just start telling a story that I felt something said, be honest, and you can never go wrong.
That's right.
And so I told a story about how I had been a virgin when I graduated high school, and I had such shame about it that when I got to college, I told everyone I was this super experienced person, and it backfired because a lot of the guys were virgins and they were scared of me. And the girls who ended up getting laid were the ones that were honest and said, I need to lose my virginity. And those people got together and helped each other out.
Fella?
Yeah. And so I got a reputation as like, oh my God, like she's not even a slut, but just like you don't want to have sex with her. She's just too scary.
She knows too much.
Yeah. So it took too long for me to lose my virginity after that. I couldn't give it away. And so there was something in there that I was so scared to say it that it gave an electricity to the room.
So you talked about that.
I talked about that. I don't know where it came from.
Right.
My good friends didn't even know this about me. To that day, my good friends thought bought the story, So it was just this like, I must tell someone, and that created an electricity that made it go well.
I'm sure they could tell in your tone. The audience, we are naked up there.
Yeah, they know when you're bullshitting.
They not only know when you're bullshitting, they know when you've stumbled across gold that you didn't even think about before you came on stage. They see it in your eyes and they hear it in the timbre of your tone of your voice.
Well, when I could figure out why I wanted to really tell that story, I did it 20 years later in a Netflix special, and it became a bigger part of a bunch of other things.
Right.
So I said it once, never said it again. And then 22 years later well, maybe I'll do that. But so I started doing honest storytelling, and then I got to New York. And when I got to New York, there was always this, like, I didn't know about this then, that like there were different styles of comedy that would be in vogue.
Because it was 93, 94?
It was maybe like 96, 97.
Still going on.
So it was very one-liner. You got to be Mitch Hedberg. You got to this, you got to that. And the monologue thing was its own thing, and they were calling that alternative comedy. And I was like, that's fine, but to me, that's comedy. I grew up watching monologues.
Even Bill Cosby was a storyteller of monologues. And his own personal stories. As it turns out, we would have all benefited from a little more truth in the liner notes.
That's true.
Of the album.
Well, he told us about it in Spanish Fly, but we didn't listen.
That's right.
But so I got to New York, and it was like, oh, I guess I better do one-liners then, and I'm terrible at them.
Yeah.
And so I had a bad few years.
I think I've only written one that I would tell on stage and still do. I had an uncle who was a faith healer, a Jewish faith healer, of course, so he did things a little differently. He would cure people by comparing his illnesses to theirs.
I love it.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And then I would act it out. Oh,
right. It always leads to something.
Oh,
right?
you sprained your ankle. I see. Well, I have a growth on my colon the size of your face. How do you feel now, Mr. Ankle? So, but I can't duplicate that because I would rather go on stage and tell my personal story.
Do you get mad when people, I don't know if people do this, but sometimes people call me a storyteller and I go, no, I'm not telling some story like some lady with some feathers in her hair.
There was once a house by a brook.
Yeah, I'm like, there's
My
punchlines. There's punchlines in it, or else nobody would listen. I tried this out in the middle of the night in Arizona. Like, trust me, there's punchlines.
Yeah.
But it's just maybe I don't change the topic for 10 minutes. Like, isn't that what comedy is? I grew up watching it. I feel like I lost my mind.
You tell jokes in the with a beginning, middle, and end. It's called a story.
Yeah, and people, so you're more of a storyteller than a comedian. And I go fucking nuts. And the interview is over at that point, and I just lecture for 20 minutes about, like, what is comedy to you?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me insane.
Right.
It's a big thing people say still to this day. I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know. There's not that many one-liner.
No. Although to this day, every time Jamie and I get onto an escalator that's broken, we instantly say, an escalator is never broken. It just turns into stairs.
Oh, Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my one and only one-liner I have?
Please.
But if you don't like it, I'll be so sad. It's part of a longer story about my friend who got a tattoo. She's Jewish. Mm-hmm. And how I got a tattoo that was stupid and meaningless and based on something Matthew McConaughey said. So that's true. That's the premise.
I like it already.
But her tattoo was something, the numbers that her grandfather had tattooed from the Holocaust. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I said, my friend's grandfather survived the Holocaust because he was a Nazi. Thank you. I'm like, I know I didn't write that because it just came out of my mouth one night. I'm like, I didn't write that. That's not me. But I Googled it. I don't think I stole it. But anyway, but he did survive, but he wasn't a Nazi. But then it leads into a whole other thing. But it's the only one-liner I've ever written.
I've never heard it. I thought I had heard every one of those jokes.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard that.
Well, I feel honored.
Yeah. I got so dark one night with a friend. I was doing, this is the darkest thing I've ever said on the show in 9.5 years.
I love that I could be the
You
guest.
brought this out. Don't edit yourself. Just say it. Guards at a camp outside, 4 a.m, 2 Nazi guards at a concentration camp. Mm-hmm. 4 a.m, smoking cigarettes. They got the shit shift. And they're trying to pass the time by making each other laugh as they start doing knock-knock jokes. Knock-knock, who's there? Wer the Jews?
Wait, what?
Knock-knock.
Oh.
Who's there?
Wer the Jews?
Knock-knock, who's there? I'll ask the questions. Knock-knock, who's there? Show me your papers. So that is how dark comedians need to go.
Yeah.
As a Jew, how could you ever utter those words, right?
Right.
How could you ever conjure that? Don't you know what my or someone else's grandparent went through? It's because I know of all that pain. It's because I know of all that suffering. It's because I know that this is verboten.
Yeah.
That forces me to go there when I want to be outrageous or original thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes it helps unlodge the other crap in your head. It's like the things said in any writer's room are insane.
Right.
And then we get to the real stuff that the characters could actually say.
Yeah.
But you have to yell out something almost like you have Tourette's. Like there's crazy shit that I just yell out. I'm like, I'm just yelling this out because I can't stop thinking about it.
There's darkness.
Yeah, there's darkness. I remember, maybe I shouldn't tell this because, it doesn't matter. I had
Could it be worse than the Jew telling
No, it's not worse than that.
Nazi concentration camp guard jokes?
No, but it's but it's 9/11 related.
Sure.
And I always have to preface, I was in New York on 9/11. It's okay, I talk about 9/11. But I remember the week after when we all started doing comedy again, it would have been crazy not to mention it. Right. That's what people are out. They want to hear you. I mean, people wanted to hear jokes about it.
Yeah.
And they got them. I mean, nothing was insensitive. It was like, I remember my friend had a really funny joke just about like, if you survived and you were like an office worker and at your next job, if someone's just like, can you go do this? It's like, I was in, no, it was something about like being like, I was in 9/11. You can always like, I have post-traumatic stress. I can't go near a copy or I don't, it was funny in its own way. Anyway, but I know some people who wrote on Friends. I worked for them on a sitcom and they were saying in the writer's room that as a joke, they were trying to think of what would be a really great last episode. And they were like, what if Joey just comes running and going, the 2 towers are on fire, cut to black. How great would that have been?
Oh my God. That's beautifully dark.
It's beautifully dark.
Yeah.
But I guess that was their little writer's room joke on Friends. I don't know. I feel like I'm revealing something I shouldn't have said. I don't care. I didn't say who said it.
Then we both did.
I guess so. But I feel like I breached a contract, but I didn't sign anything. I can say what I want.
Yes, that is the world we live in. Can you believe we talked for almost 90 minutes?
Oh my God.
What happened?
I can't, because I'm not brief is what happened.
No. It's called a conversation.
Oh, I know, but I'm not brief.
This is the best possible way to do this.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah. So now it's time. I feel like we probably already covered enough about me, but there's a segment called Ask Kevin.
Oh,
where
I love
you can
it.
ask me any question, sincere or silly, meaningless or not, or neither.
Oh, I do have a question.
All right.
I want to know I think about this all the time. Not just specific to you, just to anybody. What's your process when you're, do you actually ever feel when you're acting? Does that make sense? Or are you just good at acting?
Do you mean, do I get lost in a moment as the character? Do I feel what they feel?
Could you make yourself cry and how would you do it? And then when you get a script before a table read, not do you get nervous, but do you go, I really need to prepare, or do you go, just fucking wing it and it works out? I guess it's 2 different questions, but.
Well, in order to do impersonations the way I do them, I'll speak as a comedian first. I only think that I'm doing it right when I can think as that person. I've said before that when I impersonate Albert Brooks, I think faster and funnier than in my own thoughts. Mm-hmm. When I do Christopher Walken, to me, it's not pedestrian because it's the shoes all the way up to the top of my head. And I'm moving and thinking, and facial expressions are not exaggerated. So I feel like my best acting is when I'm just doing an impersonation. That's the only time I really get lost in the character's thoughts. And feel.
Yeah.
According to I think the question was asked.
Yeah.
So then as Moish, I do absolutely prepare for the table reads. I do get nervous. I think we all do, because the words are so unusually good, and you just don't want to fuck them up, even though somebody's gonna, your brain just. We're all, I think, a little percentage dyslexic, so
Yeah.
we'll swap a few words and then you just completely fuck the rhythm of the line and you can't believe it happened. It doesn't matter even if you think you know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You still don't want to be the person who does it.
Of course not.
So there's all that.
Yeah.
But then also, I'm a comedian who had no formal training as an actor. I learned doing it all these years. And so my research is the script. If I'm going to be a worker in the garment district, I don't need to go hang out with people in the garment district to see how the job is done. Because it's never about a guy who works in the garment district.
Right.
It's about the guy.
Right. Your activity, we know you're in the garment district. We see the set.
See the visual.
So now we need to know what's your...
You haven't seen Moish cut fabric
right.
or build a suit.
Right.
So it is just studying the script. So I'll read the script 20 times, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not memorizing the whole thing. I'm just becoming annoyingly familiar with the episode.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So that's my real process. And then, you know, because I don't have any real depth as an actor, I can't cry on cue. And I don't feel I'm that good after take 4. Because then I'm just repeating things. And I'm completely removed because I don't have any actual technique. Although the great character actor J.T. Walsh, when I confessed to him on A Few Good Men, he played Markinson, this is the film I'm going to get found out on, that I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, you're already doing a technique that people study their whole lives for, which is less is more. You need to learn that there's a second half to that. Less is more, nothing is best. If you can do nothing in a scene and be compelling and interesting to watch, then you win.
Oh, wow.
Then now my honest, but sounds like a joke, is I've made a career out of doing nothing.
I love it.
So I've just really kind of special. So Moish is the opposite of that. He's scene stealing, grandstanding, doesn't listen, talks over people. He's boisterous and loud and never stops when he's in a scene.
Yeah.
Which is just, it flies in the face of everything I believe in and have somehow been able to do. I've done a few films. I don't know the exact number, 84, but I will say that 6 of them are terrific. You could tell that's from the act, huh?
I couldn't actually. I was just like, he's so good at math.
That's right. So there's your answer.
I love it. You know, that great example of that, and it's a controversial opinion. People have been very angry at me with it.
Ooh.
But where less is more, better is nothing, and then too much is too much is, I had never seen a Midnight Cowboy until a couple years ago. And Jon Voight just exists, and you can't stop looking at that face.
He's doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Yeah. Where's Dustin Hoffman?
Dustin Hoffman is having a seizure. It's like pick a lane. And it was doing too much things. He's got a tick. He's got a thing. His foot.
I would argue
too much stuff.
It continued. If you look at Rain Man.
Well, I was like, this is Rain Man.
Yeah. He won an Academy Award for playing one beat all the way through the film. Whereas if we don't go on Tom Cruise's character's journey, there's no movie.
Right.
His performance is way better in terms of accomplishment.
Yes, you're right.
Dustin found one weirdly unique, something we hadn't seen before. God blessed, you did that, and then you just did that the entire film.
Right.
And now, thank you for the question. It was wonderful. Way better than the answer. It's time for Kevin's pop quiz. Between 5 and 15 points possible for each of these 3 questions. Once the final score is tabulated, it'll be posted on our website along with the current standing of the top 100. Are you ready?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Right? That all was designed to make you feel uncomfortable.
Okay, I am.
Good. Question 1. Keith David or David Keith?
I don't know who either of them is, and I'm embarrassed.
That's the correct answer. Question number 2. Carl Weathers or The Weather in Carlsbad?
The Weather in Carlsbad.
Also correct. And last question, Steve?
No.
Nope, that's right. 3 out of 3. It's a perfect score.
Is it really?
Nope. Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
So Keith David is the wonderful actor. Did you see Something About Mary?
Yes.
So when Schmuckalovitz gets the bubbles and squeak caught in the zipper, the father who's in the bathroom with him.
Got it. Okay.
And then David Keith is the sidekick to Richard Gere in Officer and a Gentleman.
Oh.
Who commits suicide.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Got it. Yeah, I would never know those names.
Nope. Keith David Keith. Yeah, it used to be.
I think I'd go with David Keith.
Okay, there you go. This question used to be Dave Koechner or Rob Riggle.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, but thank you for playing.
Of course.
And you were 3 out of 3.
Okay, good.
Illegitimately. But that's all we care about.
That's all I care about.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, this is a joy and an honor.
For this, yes. I will see you soon. See you back east.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Ryan, the engineer to the stars, thank you so much for being here today and helping out all the folks here at Earwolf and Corey Levin in Post. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.